Welcome. My name is John Barnacle, and today I'll be giving you a brief overview of the GSA Global Supply Program and how it can support the work of the VA. I'll note at the outset that on my last slide, I include my contact information. If you have questions at the end of the program, or next week, or next month, please don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to answer that or find the subject matter expert in GSA who can do so. As we begin, the agenda gives you a sense of where I'm heading today. I want to emphasize that GSA and VA are working closely together to describe the program and its benefits, potential, and realized for the VA. Talk briefly about the civics of GSA. I'll move into the Global Supply Program specifically and talk about the products that are available, how you can place an order, special order program that exists to expand our reach beyond what you see in our catalog or what you see on our website. Talk about the recent expansion in the number of part numbers available, and then conclude with a brief note about customer service, how you can learn more, place orders, resolve problems with orders, etc. Very briefly, GSA goes back almost 70 years to the post-World War II era of government realignment and streamlining. We were created under a legislation signed by President Truman, and our mission is to streamline the business of the federal government, help agencies to focus on their mission by accomplishing some of the administrative and procedural tasks so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Most of the work of GSA now is done by two services. Our colleagues in the Public Building Service provide space for approximately 1 million federal employees. Those are in hundreds of federal buildings around the country, many of them historic, as well as millions of square feet of leased space in commercial buildings. What I'll be focusing on today is the acquisition side of GSA, the Federal Acquisition Service, and how we provide products and services, again, to help you focus on your core mission. GSA and VA have partnered in recent months, and we are working closely with the folks in logistics and supply chain management at VA to outline the program and highlight its benefits for VA users. This core presentation has already been delivered at several CLO conferences, including in Milwaukee and in Kansas. A number of VA locations are already making use of the program. We have a team of more than 100 customer service directors, subject matter experts who are available to visit your site, provide training, do troubleshooting, and support your team in accomplishing its mission. There are also a variety of webinars, both live and virtual, that we can offer to you and your colleagues. The federal supply side, the Federal Acquisition Service of GSA is devoted to supporting our federal colleagues, both civilian and military, here in the States and around the world. And the key to our operation is requisition ordering. When you purchase from GSA, you are making a government-to-government transaction. GSA Global Supply has completed the procurement process, so you're not buying from a commercial entity, scheduled vendor, or an open market purchase. You're buying from another federal agency. That has significant benefits for you. Many of you are probably familiar with FAR Section 8.002. I want to draw your attention initially to the last sub-bullet there in bold, where GSA Global Supply is listed as a wholesale supply source, much the same way that DLA supports the military side of the government. We'll note briefly a few of those other subsections because GSA supports them and makes it easy for you to find, for example, items from the AbilityOne community, agencies that employ people who are blind or have significant disabilities. We also carry some Unicore product. But for now, the focus is GSA as a wholesale supply source and the safety and simplicity of that requisition status for all your transactions with us. As a brief side note, I'll mention that my colleagues in GSA's personal property management program handle federal excess property. That's personal property, equipment, vehicles, etc., not real property, buildings and land. If you have excess property that you want to be rid of, or you need excess from another federal entity, I encourage you to visit the websites listed at the top of this slide. You can learn more about the program. You can post items that you no longer need or claim items that other agencies have made available. Now then, what does it mean to be a wholesale supply source? I've already mentioned that the requisition is the key term for all of our transactions. So we have already completed the procurement process. Everything in our system, whether it's visible on the catalog, visible on the website, is available to you as a government-to-government transaction. That gives you significant benefits, one of which is the payment flexibility to use your government purchase card. And again, the SmartPay, now SmartPay 3 program is managed by our GSA colleagues. There are tens of thousands of cards in circulation, tens of thousands of transactions daily. We're very experienced with managing that program and handling those cards for daily use. But you also have the option of using your activity address code, which is a 6-character code, in VA's case, starting with the numbers 36, that allow us to do direct billing. In effect, we can debit your account at the Treasury for the supplies that you purchase from GSA Global Supply. I hope it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that all of our transactions are safely within the bounds of the FAR, various executive orders, Trade Agreements Act, and other policies that guide federal purchasing. On your behalf, we jump through those hoops and ensure that everything we make available, again, in our catalog or via our website, are in compliance with all those regulations. You don't have to think about it. A brief note of context, during FY18, our business volume was up a little bit over $700 million, the growth of about 20% over the prior year. And as you can see, much of that went to DoD customers, both here in the States and around the world. We do support on a daily basis civilian agencies like VA, and we're interested in growing that proportion of our business to readjust that ratio. We provide emergency support both before, during, and after various disasters for FEMA, but we also provide routine daily support for, again, VA, HUD, USDA, and lots of other federal agencies. I won't discuss it today, but I will note that over recent decades, GSA has operated retail supply stores, primarily on military bases, but not exclusively, both here in the States and around the world. Those stores still exist, but they're no longer operated by GSA Global Supply. Our colleagues at GSA and Retail Operations now support those stores. As a side note, that they still exist if any of your colleagues or colleagues in the federal government need that. The breaking news from the GSA Global Supply perspective is that very recently OMB designated the program as best in class. As you might imagine, there's rigorous criteria for that involving pricing, planning, ongoing reviews of operations, etc. There is within that list of criteria a particular emphasis on savings for you and for your federal colleagues, both directly in terms of prices paid versus other alternatives, and also on the indirect savings attributable to staff time and administrative work before and after purchasing. Because we ensure that compliance with the FAR, with the Ability One program, et cetera, that I mentioned a moment ago, we can save you and your colleagues significant money. Now then, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the products that are available and how you might benefit from using it. GSA manages roughly 50,000 national stock numbers. Those are in the subcategories you see on the screen: tools and hardware items, office supplies, cleaning supplies, et cetera. We also supplement that offering with more than 500,000, that number is growing, part numbers. More efficient for GSA to issue a part number or to use a part number than to establish an NSN, we can broadly increase the range of products available to you and add and drop those items more quickly than we could if we went through a more detailed process to establish or terminate an NSN. Bottom line is there are hundreds of thousands of products available to you on a daily basis, and that number is growing. I'll circle back later to the special order program concept, but I just want to note that beyond what you see on our website or in our catalog, we have acquisition expertise. We have multiple centers that do buying in different locations. For instance, our New York office focuses on office products. Our Kansas City office focuses on tools and industrial supplies. If you need something, particularly a large or complex item that is not under contract and not visible on our website, we can do a special order for you, and our acquisition experts can assist you as much or as little as needed to find such a product, purchase it, oversee its installation, even monitor its use after the fact. So keep in mind that on a fee-for-service basis, we can supplement what you see on our website through this special order program. A few brief notes about how we interact with our suppliers and our partners. Key constituent in our supplier community is the AbilityOne community. Legislation going back before World War II requires federal folks to buy products made by the AbilityOne network, agencies that employ people who are blind or have significant disabilities. We do that. We try and make it easy for folks to identify and to purchase AbilityOne items. And on any given day, there are probably over 3,000 AbilityOne items identified with a logo on our website or in our catalogs, easily visible, the Skillcraft brand name in many cases. What's less visible but as important is what we do behind the scenes. We work very closely with the AbilityOne community to eliminate from our offering products which are essentially the same. That ETS, essentially the same, is a key phrase. What it means is that if there are commercial products which are essentially the same as an AbilityOne item, we will not offer it. So if you look at our catalog or you visit our website, you do a search for something, you'll see results that include, in many cases, an AbilityOne option. It'll have that icon to clearly identify it. If it's what you need, great, you can put it in your shopping cart and know that you've complied with the mandate to purchase those items. If you see another item which does not have that logo, you can be confident that it is not essentially the same. We have removed ETS items, and so you're safe to buy that item without the icon as well. No time wasted, no worries, no additional research needed, and no concern that you're going to be hit later by your IG or the Washington Post or anybody else for not supporting the AbilityOne program. Rules are a little bit less explicit on the green side, but we understand that agencies are more interested in purchasing green products. So again, we reach out to the vendor community and our partners to offer you several thousand items a day which bear one or more icons indicating their environmental status. Many of you are probably familiar with the concept of strategic sourcing. GSA has done that for several years, and in recent years has incorporated those principles and practices into the GSA Global Supply Program, bring the safety and simplicity of the requisition program, as well as the savings and efficiency of strategic sourcing. In the beginning of FY16, we rolled that out for office products. Beginning of FY17, we added it for both janitorial and sanitation products and maintenance, repair, and operations supplies. Briefly, what it does is to focus our buying and leverage the buying power we have through you to a much smaller universe of vendors. Instead of working with dozens or hundreds of suppliers in a given category, we can focus that on a very small number. In this case, in each of the three categories, we have partnered with 6 vendors, and in each of those, by coincidence, 5 of the 6 are small vendors. So even though we have streamlined our purchasing and narrowed the pool of suppliers in those categories, we have maintained our long-term and historic commitment to supporting small business. Under that umbrella of strategic sourcing and modernization of the program, a few things change. Hopefully you'll see faster delivery, lower prices, and you and your colleagues over time will see that enhanced even more. Contracts include built-in thresholds where when the government buys X amount of product, prices come down an additional percentage. So we're driving lower prices by using the program over time. It also enhances data collection and makes it simpler for you and your colleagues to understand your spending patterns, to get a handle on your spend under management, to make your operations more efficient as well. What doesn't change is the underlying simplicity and flexibility of working with GSA Global Supply. I mentioned earlier that we are a government-to-government partner with you. I won't go through all the details of the FAR, but as one example, FAR Section 8.4 talks about purchasing from schedule vendors and how once you consider making a purchase over the micro-purchase threshold, you need to document your files and do comparison shopping and have 3 potential sources. That section of the FAR does not apply to GSA Global Supply because we're not a commercial entity, not a scheduled vendor, we're not an open market source. You don't have to do that. Whether you spend $10 with us, $10,000 with us, or $110,000 with us, you don't have to do that documenting of 3 sources. You have multiple ordering options. I'll talk briefly about those. A couple of online options as well as phone and fax. You have a single point of contact after the transaction is made to inquire about status, to get customer support, to fix a problem. If you wind up with red pens instead of blue pens, there's one number to call for your entire shopping list. Finally, that special order support I noted earlier, particularly for large or complex requirements, is available. We can tap our acquisition expertise and apply it to circumstances that go beyond our daily offering. Okay, let's talk briefly about order placement and some of those options you have. The slide shows a couple of different websites. I'll talk briefly about them. This isn't a full-blown tutorial, so I won't go through every feature and benefit, but I'll give you a high-level overview of how they support you and how they differ. You have the option of calling us. We're available with a live body on a 24/5 basis between Sunday night and Friday night Eastern Time. You can call whenever it's convenient, ask questions, place an order, or solve a problem. You can also use a blank order form in most of our catalogs, tear that out, make copies, and fax in orders if that's more convenient for you. Many people ask, what's the difference between the GSA Global Supply site and GSA Advantage? And again, I'm not going to go through every bell and whistle on either site. But if you look at the left side of the screen for GSA Global Supply, we recommend using that site when the items you're searching to buy are common items, office products, hand tools, power tools, etc. When your activity address code is the preferred method of payment, again, because we're a government entity and our transactions are G2G, we can accept that and do direct billing. Everything you see on the Global Supply site is requisition-based, so you don't have those comparison shopping worries or concerns. By contrast, GSA Advantage will display the same GSA Global Supply items. Those servers run in parallel. In fact, you can use the same username and ID to register on either site. It'll have the same prices, same photos, same descriptions. There's no incentive to go to one site versus the other in terms of buying from Global Supply. But what GSA Advantage will also display are millions of items from thousands of vendors who hold scheduled contracts. Those items are not requisitions. Those items are acquisitions, and different rules apply, including FAR Section 8.4 that I mentioned earlier. If you know you're going to buy an unusual item or buy from a scheduled vendor, or your shopping cart is going to include a mix of requisition and acquisition items, it's probably more effective for you to use the GSA Advantage site. But if you know you're looking at a requisition and you want to buy from GSA Global Supply, I would recommend the GSA Global Supply site. Simpler and easier to use. Now then, if you want to use your activity address code, please feel free. GSA has used that code. It's a legacy system that dates back to the 60s, the early era of NASA, and we routinely handle thousands of transactions a day via activity address code. We sync our operations and our financial systems with civilian and military agencies, and we process those payments twice a month, typically on the 1st of the month and around the 15th of the month. I mean, those aren't weekends. And in effect, we draw from the Treasury the dollars to cover your supply orders during that prior 2-week period. In most cases, in fact, virtually all cases, VA locations nationwide have been issued an activity address code. It may have been forgotten if it hasn't been used lately, or it may be dormant, but in most cases it exists. And I'll talk a little bit later in the presentation about your subject matter experts when it comes to activity address codes. If you have questions about identifying what your code is or making sure that it's active and appropriate for use, I'll point you toward those folks. In a very rare case where a code does not exist or a new one needs to be issued, Our subject matter experts will work with your colleagues to do that, to establish a new code and to make sure that it's appropriate for use. But just know that you can use that code in a variety of ordering methods through the old FedStrip program, online at the two websites I'll talk about briefly, and over the phone. Now, I'll talk briefly about the GSA Global Supply website. As I mentioned earlier, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of items available to you on a daily basis. It operates like most commercial websites. There's a search box. You can do a search by specific part number or NSN, find what you need, add it to your cart, and check out. If you need to have others review that and approve that, you can save your cart and share it with others, or invite your colleagues to add items to the cart before someone processes it for checkout and submits it to GSA. As a reminder, everything visible on this website is available on a requisition basis. It's all coming from GSA Global Supply, and every item will be identified in that way. Here's a look at the home page, and again, I won't drill down to every feature. I will draw your attention to a few notes. In the bottom right corner, there's an icon for the supply catalog. When we publish or print a new supply catalog, we'll provide a link on this site so you can go to it, view it online. If it's available in printed form, as this edition is, you can request a free printed copy to be mailed to you. I've highlighted here on the main shopping page the search box. In the upper left, you can type in a specific NSN if you know what it is. You can type in a part number if you've ordered it before and know what it is. Or you can type in a generic search term, copier paper, three-hole punch copier paper, light blue copier paper, whatever it is that you need. And if you've got a decent internet connection, you'll see results in less than a second. I've highlighted here the results of a search for copier paper. Again, the only reason I highlight each result is that in every case, the contractor is identified as GSA Global Supply. Just a visual reminder that everything comes from GSA Global Supply. They're all requisition items. They're all owned cradle to grave by GSA Global Supply. So if there's any question or any concern, you have one point of contact to pursue. Get started. Anyone in the world with internet access can browse the site, see what's available, check prices, etc. But if you're interested in actually compiling a cart and placing an order, you'll need to register. And the arrow on the screen highlights the button to do that. You will get a blank screen, guide through a blank screen to establish your profile. Tell us who you are, what agency you work for, your address, your method of payment, etc., your email address. And once you do that, it's saved and available for editing as time goes on if you get transferred or details change in your address, but doesn't have to be repeated. As you set up your profile, you can define your method of payment. And again, you have the option to put in multiple methods of payment. If you have a purchase card, you can enter that number, expiration date, etc. If you know your activity address code, you can enter that as well. You can use both. You can alternate daily or weekly or between transactions and put one on a purchase card and one on your AAC. If that's more convenient for you or assists you and your colleagues in financial management, that flexibility is there and will continue to be there. Finally, if you're ordering with your activity address code as a security check, first time you do that, we will contact a supervisor. So you give us a name and an email address, and we will email that person to confirm that you are an authorized user of that activity address code. Once we receive that reply back from your supervisor, you're good to go. You can place orders. We'll renew that confirmation over time, but it's a pretty simple process. Now, I'll mention briefly GSA Advantage as an online alternative. I mentioned earlier that it displays the same items as GSA Global Supply with the same photos, prices, descriptions, etc. It's pulling from the same database for descriptions, so all that information is the same. What's different is that Advantage also displays millions of products from thousands of schedule vendors. To buy from any of those schedule vendors, you will need to use a purchase card. They don't have that G2G status, so they can't dip into the treasury for payment on your orders. but that will require the use of a purchase card. Remember that the Advantage site includes a mix of requisition items, GSA Global Supply, and many, many, many acquisition items from those thousands of vendors I mentioned. In addition to online options, you can call GSA, I mentioned earlier, the 24/5 basis, ask questions before you place an order, establish the unit of issue, and make sure that it's a package of 6 and not a dozen or not an individual unit. You can place your order over the phone. Our friendly folks will be glad to take that order, again, with your option to use the purchase card or your activity address code. And if by chance you have a problem on the back end, you need to solve a problem, you got the wrong color pen, etc., you can call that same number on a 24/5 basis and have that resolved quickly and efficiently. I mentioned earlier that most of our catalogs have a blank fax order form. You can tear that page out, make as many copies as you need, and fill it in as you wish to submit an order to us. The machine is on 24/7. It's staffed like the call center 24/5, so if you fax us an order on Saturday, we won't see it until Sunday night, but we'll process it and fax you back a confirmation if that's what you want. Earlier, I mentioned that there are items available beyond what you see in the catalog and beyond what you see on our website. Even though we have roughly 600,000 items available on a daily basis visible on our website, that number is growing toward 1 million and beyond. There may be cases where your requirements are so complex or so unusual that you need special order support. I mentioned earlier we have acquisition folks in multiple locations around the country who can support you for requirements that are roughly aligned with what we offer on a daily basis. If you need IT equipment, we're not going to be able to help you. We'll refer you to our colleagues in the IT part of GSA. Similarly, if you need fire trucks or some large vehicle requirement, we'll work with our fleet colleagues to do that. But if they're roughly aligned with office products and equipment, tools and industrial supplies, etc., we're happy to support you, and we'll do as much or as little as you need us to do. Depending on the time of year or your workload or your resource availability, you may not need us to do the entire transaction. But we're available and willing to do that if you do want us to do that. On the front end, we can help you develop a statement of work, put out a solicitation, hold an evaluation, make an award. We can even oversee the installation of equipment or monitor its use on the back end if that's helpful to you. We will sit down on the front end of that potential transaction, work out with you your requirements, and establish a fee for that service, so there are no surprises on the back end. If that's ever of interest to you, you can use the email address at the bottom of the screen, specialorderprogram@gsa.gov. The folks who monitor that inbox will route it to our subject matter experts, whether it's office equipment or industrial supplies or whatever the requirement turns out to be. I mentioned earlier that recently we have dramatically expanded the number of part numbers available to you. Many of those fall under the umbrella of maintenance, repair, and operations. There are several thousand examples of office products and janitorial and sanitation supplies, but the largest number of those fall under the MRO umbrella, maintenance, repair, and operations. Those products carry the same benefits that I've been talking about. They're all requisitions. They're all government-to-government transactions, so you have payment flexibility. You have multiple ordering options you can use to submit that order to us online, over the phone, whatever. In all cases, GSA Global Supply will be identified as the contractor on the website, so there's no confusion about who owns that or who's going to be billing you for it. It will show up on your bill as a GSA Global Supply purchase. Our goal is to make it easy for you to accomplish your mission, or that we can expand that inventory and give you multiple choices for socket sets or screwdrivers or whatever it is you need. We're happy to do so. A relatively new feature is the relaunch of the AskGSA.gov website. What this allows you to do at your convenience is some self-service work, particularly on order status. If you've placed an order with us and you want to know where it is in the pipeline, what day it might be delivered, where it is in the UPS delivery cycle between pickup at the source location and ending at your loading dock or your front door. You can register on the askgsa.gov website, create your own username and password, and then go in as time goes on, check on the status of individual items on your order list to get a status update, to see a tracking number. If it's coming by UPS, for instance, you can copy that number and plug it into the UPS site and see when an actual delivery date is to be expected. Very simple process, and again, it's to help you accomplish your mission by making it easy for you when it's convenient for you to do additional research. For those of you who may be interested in using your activity address code, I want to just offer a few brief notes about how to do that. As I mentioned earlier, most VA locations already have an activity address code established. Whether it's been used lately or not or forgotten is beside the point. It probably exists. It just needs to be uncovered and confirmed. On my next slide, I'll show you the subject matter experts within VA who can help you do that. I also noted earlier, if there's an unusual case where there is no activity address code, we'll be happy to work with them and with you to establish that and make it available for future use. Just keep in mind that every single item visible on the GSA Global Supply website is available using your AAC. Here are the folks that we work with on a regular basis and who I encourage you to work with if you have questions about whether or not your activity address code is still valid. There is a shared email address you'll note under both folks' listings there. In a very rare case where both of them are out of the office, that email will go to one of their colleagues for action. Rather than list individual named email addresses, we're using this shared box to be sure that you get prompt service even in an unusual scenario where they're both away from the desk. Also, there's a search tool available to VA folks. I've listed the long URL there at the bottom of the slide. If you want to do a search within your own database to check on an AAC or confirm its validity, you can do that. Final note about activity address codes. A couple of years ago, GSA updated its IT systems for order processing. And in doing so, we created for VA and for a few other agencies what we call a generic or an interim activity address code. Folks who were using their purchase card, they needed to validate that it was a legitimate card by providing an activity address code in our websites. The generic one you see listed on the screen, 360ADV, allowed folks to do that and validate purchase card transactions. However, there's no funding associated with that generic activity address code. You can't use that 360ADV today to make a purchase from Global Supply. So if you look at your profile, if you have an existing profile, and you see that 360ADV is already loaded in there, you'll need to replace that with a more specific, unique activity address code for your location in order to purchase from GSA Global Supply. And again, if you need help determining what that is, you can talk to the subject matter experts I just listed. But just know that that generic form was only available for folks who were buying with a purchase card and needed to validate that. We are, as I said at the beginning, working closely with VA, both nationally and locally on a variety of fronts. As one more example, based on conversations between GSA folks in Texas and VA folks there, we are looking at these items you see, furniture items you see on the screen, to establish or consider establishing national stock numbers to bring under our daily offering these types of items for easy availability. In the meantime, if you needed one or more of those, or particularly if you needed a large quantity of those, we'd be happy to do a special order program purchase for you. But it's just an example of how we're working with you to identify your needs and make it easy for you to find what you need under the umbrella of GSA Global Supply. Again, as a point of reference, the items you see listed on the screen were some of the top sellers during FY18. Obviously, a number of items under office supplies would be relevant. I'll also note that in addition to these items which are under contract and readily available on the website, we've also done some sizable special order purchases for VA including office equipment under that top category of office supplies and equipment. Finally, a brief note about GSA customer service. Hope I've repeated it often enough that our folks are available around the clock on a Sunday night through Friday night basis. They can obviously take an order from you and process an order using your purchase card or using your activity address card, but they're also available for questions or issues before and after a purchase. If you have questions about an item or packaging, etc., they can help you before you make a purchase. They can also solve problems on the back end. By chance an item doesn't arrive or arrives damaged or is the wrong color or size, we can make adjustments, issue you a credit, establish a new shipment and replace that, and do that over the phone. If phone isn't convenient for you or you don't have time at a given moment to start that or conclude that process, you can send an email to them and start the process of them either researching or fixing that problem, and we can interact at a more convenient time for you to close the loop on that. As far as publications go, we have a website available, gsa.gov/CMLS, to offer a variety of publications. On the right side of the screen, you see the cover of our new supply catalog. It's got about 7,000 items in it, including our most popular items. It's available to be mailed to you, or it can be viewed online. You can go to that website and find it easily. What you see on the left side of your screen is not a product catalog. There are no prices or photos of products in there. What it is a printed version or an electronic version of essentially the civics lesson that I have zipped through today. So if you'd like to have a more casual interaction or leisurely look at how GSA Global Supply operates, feel free to download that guide and review it or share it with your colleagues for continued reading and learning. Finally, as promised, here is my contact information. If anything I said or didn't say has prompted questions about how we operate or how we can support you, please don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. As I said, I'd be glad to answer questions or talk to you about it. We can arrange for a GSA colleague to come out and provide on-site training and supplement this course with additional information. If I don't know the answer, I will find the person in GSA Global Supply or elsewhere who does and be glad to circle back with you. Again, I appreciate your time and interest today. I invite you to contact me if I or any of my colleagues can help you in the days ahead. I wish you well on accomplishing your mission and hope that GSA Global Supply can be an effective partner helping you do that. Thank you.